No, it's so hard to do what you really, really desperately want in life. It's so much easier just to do you don't care either way about.
Wow.
Being attractive doesn't preclude being intelligent.
What is your moral compass? Where does kindness and humanity sit in a brutal world? Because those are important questions to ask right now.
In my vagina.
Turns out the era of Blake's backdoor sabotage and silent bullying is crashing harder than her box office numbers, and this time, it's Cate classy unbothered. Cate exposing how Blake hijacked her Chanel legacy and dragged her husband into the mud just to feed that overcooked ego.
My husband, Andrew Upton and I ran the Sydney Theatre Company he ran it for 10 years almost, and this is the culmination. This is the last play he programmed. And what people don't realize about Chekhov is it's funny.
It's a comedy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cherry Orchard, which is his most, well-known play, probably.
And I know you might be fed up after hearing Blake's taking control of every single thing she steps into, but this one really hits a nerve because this time it's not some petty social media move or brand deal. Drama this time. Blake Lively pushed Cate Blanchett out of Chanel like she was just a background extra in her own legacy.
A psychic in Savannah in a small film called The Gift with Sam Raimi. And I had never been to a psychic, and I got her to do a reading for me, and she made some predictions. She made wild predictions. I'd play a writer who had short hair who died for what she believed in, Guavan Guevin. I played Veronica Guerin. And she said that I would wear a dress that was going to change my career. And then I wore that. I don't know if it's changed my career, but I'm very pleased I wore it. Oh, bless. Now that is my own hair, and that's just me on a Sunday morning in the pond. Next, in a little-known film called Lord of the Rings, playing Galadriel, I did have someone I deeply respect say to me, look, they're making this weird film in New Zealand, and they want you to play an elf for 3 weeks. You don't want to do that, do you?
Yeah. And yes, we're talking about Cate Blanchett, a woman whose entire career is built on actual talent, not curated lighting, and lemon aesthetics being attractive doesn't preclude being intelligent. Cate had been the face of Chanel for over 10 years. She didn't need to post fake deep quotes or stage photo woots in her kitchen to prove anything. She just showed up, brought elegance, credibility, and a kind of loyalty. Most celebrities can't even spell her connection with Chanel. Wasn't just about looking good in a dress, she brought them real artistic value. In 2020, her husband, Andrew Upton, even wrote a silent black and white film that Chanel agreed to feature as part of their cinematic capsule. It was deep, emotional, and subtle. 2 women, 1 story, no words. A film that relied entirely on expression, not marketing, gimmicks. And then Blake came in and burned it all down. 2 weeks before filming, Cate got a bland email from Chanel saying, "Creative alignment is no longer in place." That's code for "you've been replaced." No explanation, no discussion, just...
I did. After the film was over, my husband, he's fallen out of the habit. He sort of does it to the children now, but he used to drag me around by my ears. It was playful. And so I told the guys at Weta, who did all of the prosthetics, this, and they gave me, it was kind of creepy, a chocolate box full of ear tips that they'd made to look like chocolates. And then they bronzed my ears so I could give them to my husband. That is me on the set of The Aviator, which Martin Scorsese directed. I think it's between takes. I was playing Katharine Hepburn. One of the more daunting things I've ever done. But when Scorsese asks you to do anything, I'd be a tree for him. That was the first time I worked with the great Sandy Powell on the costumes. And my relationship with costume designers, I've realized over time, is really pivotal to creating a character. And obviously, even before you utter a word, an audience is going to start reading your character by what they...
out. And the next thing anyone knew, Blake Lively was announced as the new face of the exact same campaign. Hey, Blanche, what is your moral compass? Where does kindness and humanity sit in a brutal world? Because those are important questions to ask right now. In my vagina, not a partner, not a co-star, full-on replacement. The film idea was scrapped. Andrew's script was tossed out, and in came a hyper-branded crossover between Chanel Netflix and Blake's wellness venture. Cate's quiet storytelling got replaced with filtered photos, marketing buzzwords, and fake empowerment quotes that said absolutely nothing but looked good on a vision board. The industry barely blinked because when legacy gets erased in favor of younger, louder, shinier branding, Hollywood calls
they
it
wear and how they wear. And something that Marty did, he liberated me from having to do sort of any imitation of Hepburn. He played a lot of those early screwball comedies she did, and Bringing Up Baby was one of them. So I watched that. Katharine Hepburn is so rake thin. And then, you know, you don't plan for these things. And then the film got nominated and I did. And so I had to do a lot of red carpets pregnant. And Donna Karan made me this amazing stretchy dress that really celebrated the fact I was pregnant. Oh, this is back in 2006 for Vogue. It was a very memorable shoot. Tony Goodman styled it and Stephen Klein shot it. The clothes were insane. I mean, this one was another Galliano. The pose was really difficult to hold. And I learned so much about making a picture, working with Stephen Klein and Tony.
Reinvention. But what really happened was a racer, and not just of Cate, but of an entire creative vision that was already in motion. And when people started digging into it, the truth got even uglier. A stylist from the campaign anonymously claimed that Blake was never the original choice at all. Her team came in later with a multi-brand package Chanel couldn't resist. So basically, it wasn't about vision, it was about influence, money, and Instagram reach. But what really sealed it was the dinner Chanel hosted a private event at a French chateau. Cate had RSVP'd months earlier, back when she was still the centerpiece of the film. Everyone assumed she'd cancel, but she showed up. She didn't cause a scene. She didn't cry. She just showed up calm and composed. Meanwhile, Blake was sitting front and center like she just discovered feminism. And in the middle
on this shoot. Next. Oh, this was the first time I went to the Met Ball, and I went with Nicolas Gasquier when he was at Balenciaga. So we just shot with Irving Penn that day, and Nicolas had done his take on an Elizabethan garment. And then we went straight from there. We had to do a quick 360 and then show up to the Met Ball. The theme was Poiret, King of Fashion. I mean, I just went to the exhibition and could have stayed there. It's always so great. I mean, the room is really vibrant, of course, but it's always important to remember the exhibition and the reason why you're there. Okay, next one. There we go. Here's the photograph that Irving Penn took. And this was in Penn's studio. The taking of the picture was incredibly quick, but the sitting and preparing, it's like I've had the great fortune
of this luxury dinner, surrounded by legacy women and Chanel creatives, Blake allegedly told someone, "That script was beautiful, but a little outdated, right?" And the US person responded with a laugh saying, "You mean Andrew's script? I didn't even know it was her husband's. But legacy doesn't really sell to Gen Z anyway." Well, my husband Andrew and Upton and I ran the Sydney Theatre Company he ran it for 10 years almost. And this is the culmination. This is the last play he programmed. This happened while Cate was in the same room 2 tables away. Hearing her husband's work be called outdated, watching her campaign be rebranded as some fresh youth-obsessed project with zero acknowledgement of the people who created it, she didn't react. She didn't say a word. Because when you know what's happening is beneath you, you don't stoop to argue. A few days later, the new campaign launched. Blake was everywhere. She became the new voice of Chanel overnight. No mention of Cate. No sign that she had spent years shaping that brand's narrative with actual, meaning just Blake dominating the spotlight with her usual charm and hollow empowerment lines. And somehow people clapped for it like it was progress. And you'd think the drama would have peaked with the dinner, right? But no, Blake's PR tornado hadn't even hit full speed yet, because on April 16th, 2023, Chanel's entire clean girl aesthetic
being photographed by Penn and by Avedon. It's all about their regard and knowing when to press the shutter. And so to be beheld by him was just unforgettable. This was the second time I played Queen Elizabeth in Elizabeth the Golden Age. The costumes were designed by Alexandra Byrne. I mean, she referenced a lot of haute couture, and there were a lot of Balenciaga references. And she made one dress that was so enormous, I couldn't fit through the doorway of the cathedral that we were shooting in. Hello, Bob. I've worked with the great Todd Haynes a couple of times, and I hope I get to do it a couple of times more. He's so fantastic to work with. I had literally walked off the set of playing Queen Elizabeth in Queen Elizabeth the Golden Age
aesthetic meets corporate erasure. House of Cards collapsed, and not because someone wore flats on the red carpet. A British fashion magazine accidentally dropped a nuke. They published an article that was clearly prepped for Cate Blanchett's original Chanel campaign, before she got ghosted, before the silent film was axed, and way before Blake's soft focus hijack rolled out. The article wasn't even spicy on purpose. It was just honest that was the problem. 9D school. And London time. And at first glance, it looked like any other long read about Chanel's upcoming cinematic series. But then came the specifics. It name-dropped Andrew Upton as the screenwriter. It broke down the entire vibe of the film minimalist black and white raw emotion. It emphasized that Cate wasn't just the pretty face in a couture gown. She was shaping the campaign from the inside out. And most damning of all, it nailed the timeline. The article made it painfully obvious that filming had been scheduled for March. Cate had been locked in since 2020. And this wasn't
on a Friday, wrapped, and then had to be on set as playing Bob Dylan in Montreal on Monday. Todd had divided Bob's persona, Bob, like I know him, Dylan's persona, into many different characters. And the late, great Heath Ledger was one of them, and Christian Bale. And I played this electric silhouette. I think he wanted a woman inside this period of Dylan's musical career. It meant that there was a separation between how iconic this period and this look of Dylan's was, and the character playing. Because there's a woman inside that, but it was so liberating. I had fantastic eyebrows and sideburns. It was any time my husband hasn't wanted to kiss me. Oh, this is from Carol, a Todd Haynes film. I played alongside the wonderful Rooney Mara, and that coat was a nightmare. Sandy Powell did the costumes again. And once again, she can do an enormous, we worked together on Cinderella with unbelievable costumes with a much bigger budget. And then we had $2.50 to pull this one together. And she had two coats, and one was
a random creative switch. This was a full-on replacement. 3 hours later, the article was gone, like it had never existed. But this is the internet, and the Chanel PR team really thought people wouldn't screenshot it was already on Reddit before they even hit delete. The post exploded within minutes. Side-by-side comparisons started flying in Cate's original campaign details versus Blake's final version. The phrasing, the color schemes, even the damn closing line. The vibe wasn't New Vision. It was Control-C-Troll+V with a different actress. And Reddit didn't just notice it dragged one user at Archive Watch straight up, posted the screenshots with the caption. So Chanel deleted this because it didn't match Blake's rollout. This is not a rebrand, it's a replacement. That post hit 14K upvotes in 6 hours. TikTok caught the scent and went feral. 6 creators dropped comparison.
Great and stable. And this one was like a little fragile creature that kept falling apart. And I said, I'm really sorry, Sandy. I think it's that one. And she goes, I knew you were going to say that. So Sandy, the great Sandy Powell, was literally behind the car in between every take because we had to get out and it was really windy. The coat would come apart. And so she was there, but in between takes, sewing it up. I felt a responsibility for this for sure, because films like this up to this point weren't really made, and certainly not made in the mainstream. And really, this is if anyone comes up to me in the supermarket, this is the film that they talk about. And so it was really, really important to a lot of people.
Videos within a day. One viral TikTok literally used a split screen. Cate on one side in her past Chanel campaigns, and Blake on the other with the new footage, the caption, "This is how you rewrite someone else's legacy." That hit over 2 million views in 2 days. And let's be clear, these weren't just bored teenagers gossiping. People started pulling receipts, contracts, PR memos, marketing timelines of fashion. YouTuber named Red Leprez Reels did a full takedown video called "The Chanel Campaign Blake Lively Doesn't Want You to Know About." At one point, she reads from the deleted article and literally stops mid-sentence to say, they didn't even change the structure.
Oh, this is Sarah Burt when she was at McQueen. And it was the most exquisite piece of embroidery. The bottom, you can't really see there, but it was all feathers. So I love that dress so much that then during COVID, I presided over the jury in Venice. And, there was no time. All the ateliers were closed. So I said, could I borrow that piece of embroidery again? And then I had a pair of pants and wore it, because I thought, when you have something so beautiful like that, it's a crime to wear it once. It's even more beautiful in person. The year I was nominated for Blue Jasmine at the Golden Globes, Mr. Armani had designed this beautiful privé dress. It was an impossible gown, and you didn't really see the back because it goes right down to this plunging V. So the back is bare, and this beautiful lace, which has become quite signature. I was at on the jury in Cannes, and I wore it to the opening night. And I remember people saying,
Sure. Chanel's digital team went on a full cleanup mission. They started wiping metadata. The cached article disappeared from Google in under 2 days. Journalists who tried asking about it got radio silence. One editor from The Cut tweeted, tried getting a comment from Chanel Re. The deleted article got nothing but static. The silence is deafening. And honestly, that silence screamed louder than any press release ever could, because the second that article disappeared, the truth didn't just leak, it roared. Cate wasn't swapped out for creative reasons. She was erased, and Chanel's little vanishing act basically admitted it. But while Blake's team was out here doing damage control with staged tape walks and over-edited promo shots, Cate Blanchett was busy cooking something else.
To my publicist, okay, Kate's wearing it. She's worn that dress before, as if I didn't know. Oh, really? And I was so pleased to wear it again because I'd loved it so much. Sarah Burton, there she is in Cannes. Sarah made this beautiful, it was like a tuxedo, but it was a dress, and it had this massive bow on the back. And it was actually shown on the runway as a jacket. And she said, why don't I try and turn it into a dress? And so I love that. And I wore that again to Sarah's final show for McQueen. Here we are back at the Venice Film Festival, and this is a Schiaparelli flummery, which I'd seen on the runway and absolutely loved, and managed not to poke myself in the eye with it. This was an example of Tar, of the character coming to life, really. The script by Todd Field was just, you didn't change a syllable. It was so exquisitely wrought and written. It was like, how do you make a female conductor?
And no, not a podcast or some attention-hungry interview with dramatic lighting. She went back to what she actually does best: art, painful cutting, surgical art. In June 2023, just 2 months after the article got wiped, Cate and Andrew dropped a surprise play at the Sydney Theatre Company. No red carpet, no Netflix deal. Just a minimal listing and a quiet announcement written by Andrew Upton, directed by Cate Blanchett. The plot: a woman loses control of her narrative. A younger woman steps in, takes over the story, and convinces everyone it was hers all along. Sound familiar? The play was originally titled Lines That Weren't Meant to Be Read, but after just one preview, they changed it.
Look, someone who is incredibly powerful, and very, very aware of her presence. And so we went for this, I guess, what has been termed quiet luxury look. Really great tailoring. I've had a couple of experiences in my life where I've just been so in sync with a director and a script. And, you're lucky if you have one of those experiences in your life, but I've had a handful of them, and I'm so grateful. And Tar was definitely one of them. Music has come back into my life in a really major way, and that's because of this experience. Here we are. This is Armani Privé. This is the dress that just keeps on giving. That was from the current Privé collection. And I said, look, I know there's this leftover lace from the dress that I'd worn to the Globes all those years before. And they found an offcut. And so they made the internal corset out of that offcut. It's felt great. And I've since worn it again with the actual piece that goes underneath it. And I wanted to wear it with a t-shirt, but Mr. Armani wouldn't let me. You got to respect the maestro, right? Oh, hey. Well, this is an oldie but a goodie. With my first paycheck as an actor, I bought an Armani suit, and this is it. And I wear it wherever I can. And I think we were there in Milan for...
Only 400 people saw the opening night. No press, no critics, just theater nerds and maybe a few emotionally unprepared fashion interns, but someone recorded a 1-minute clip from the third act and dropped it on Reddit the next morning. And that was all it took. Kate's character stares her rival down and delivers the line that detonated the entire internet. The worst part isn't that you took it, it's that you convinced them it was always yours. And now when they applaud, I'm clapping too because I don't even recognize what they're praising anymore. That line hit TikTok, X, Instagram, Tumblr, everywhere within hours. Fashion Twitter was reposting it with captions like, "This isn't F."
Fiorucci, I think. I wear those leather pants like every Wednesday. My favorite pair of leather pants. Yeah, it's a bit my cousin it look. Not breathable, and don't go near me with a naked flame. This is the thing, you know, when you think about re-wearing something, you think, how could I wear it? It would kind of be cool as a skirt. Black bag. Working again with Steven Soderbergh, one of the most stylish filmmakers around, and Alan Mirajnek, who is one of the greatest costume designers. And I play a spy. And the only thing Steven said to me is, I want big hair. It's a great film and really fantastic cast. Thanks, Vogue.